It was a bright Saturday morning when I stepped outside with a cup of coffee in hand, ready to wash my car. My driveway was shaded by the old oak tree, and I had just finished hosing down the dust from the week when something bright red caught my eye. A warning sticker plastered across my windshield. It read, "Notice of violation, unauthorized vehicle, subject to tow." I blinked in disbelief. Unauthorized? This was my car parked in my driveway at my house. Surely this had to be a mistake. Before I could even peel it off, I heard that familiar shrill voice from across the street. Finally, someone's taking action about that eyesore. It was Karen, the self-proclaimed head of the HOA, though in reality, she was just the nosiest neighbor in the subdivision. She strutted across the street, clipboard in hand, her blonde bob bouncing with every step. "Good morning, Karen," I said, trying to stay calm. "What's this about my car being unauthorized?" She smirked. "The HOA regulations clearly state that all vehicles must be registered with the association. Yours isn't on file, so I've scheduled it for removal." I nearly laughed. "That's my car parked on my property." "You can't tow it!" Karen folded her arms, lips pursed. "Actually, I can. The HOA rules apply to all properties within the community. Maybe if you attended a meeting once in a while, you'd know that." I took a deep breath. I had moved into this neighborhood for peace and quiet, not to argue over made-up rules with a control-obsessed neighbor. "Karen, I'm not even part of your HOA," I said slowly. "This house was built before the development started. I never signed anything." That seemed to throw her off for a second, but she recovered quickly. "Well, everyone else follows the rules. I'll make sure you do too." And with that, she stomped away, shouting something into her phone about calling the tow company back. I peeled off the sticker, still fuming. This couldn't be happening. Surely no tow truck would actually show up. But just as I turned to head inside, I heard the unmistakable rumble of a diesel engine approaching the street. A large yellow tow truck slowed in front of my house. My jaw dropped. She actually did it. The tow truck pulled up right in front of my driveway, its engine idling loudly. The driver, a tall guy in greasy overalls, stepped out and started looking at my car like it was already his next job. I waved my hands, walking toward him. "Hey, you've got the wrong car." "That's mine, parked in my driveway." He squinted at me, then at his clipboard. "Address 417 Maple Ridge Lane?" "Yeah," I said. "That's me." He nodded. "Then I'm here for this gray sedan." HOA requested a removal. Before I could respond, Karen came marching over from across the street, her phone still glued to her ear. "Yes, that's the one," she said loudly, pointing at my car. "It's an unregistered vehicle violating community standards." "Please proceed, sir." I turned to her, disbelief written all over my face. "Karen, I told you this is my car. You can't have it towed." She crossed her arms smugly. "Then maybe next time you'll learn to follow the rules." The tow truck driver hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Ma'am," he said to her, "do you have paperwork from the HOA authorizing this?" Karen waved a piece of paper dramatically. "Of course I do. Right here." I snatched it from her hand before the driver could look. It wasn't even official. It was a printed page from the HOA newsletter, with her signature scribbled at the bottom. No letterhead, no legal authorization, nothing. "This isn't an order," I said, waving it. "This is a flyer. You forged this, didn't you?" Karen gasped like I'd insulted her ancestors. "How dare you accuse me of something like that? I'm just trying to maintain our neighborhood standards." The driver sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, I don't want to get involved in some neighbor feud. I need an actual authorization form from the HOA board or the property owner. Otherwise, I'm not towing anything." Karen's face turned beet red. "You can't just ignore me." "I am the HOA board." At that moment, another car pulled up. My neighbor, Mrs. Lee, who had lived here even longer than I had. She stepped out, holding a folder. "That's funny," she said calmly, "because I'm the HOA president, and Karen is just a volunteer." Karen froze mid-tantrum. Mrs. Lee handed the driver a document. "This address isn't under HOA jurisdiction. If you tow that car, you'll be trespassing." The tow truck driver nodded quickly, got back in his truck, and drove off without another word. Karen's jaw dropped as the rumble of the engine faded away. I turned to her with a smile. "Next time, maybe try knocking before calling a tow truck." Her glare could have melted steel. "This isn't over," she hissed before storming off down the street. For a few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. After the tow truck fiasco, Karen had disappeared. No morning glares. No passive-aggressive notes on my door. Not even her usual nosy trash can patrol. Honestly, I was relieved. I thought she'd finally learned her lesson. But then strange things started happening. First, I got a letter. No return address. Just a typed note slipped under my door. Failure to comply with HOA regulations will result in fines and disciplinary action. Management. I almost laughed. The paper didn't even have an HOA logo, and the signature was typed as K. Thompson, HOA Director. Karen Thompson. She had actually tried to find me using a fake letter. I decided to ignore it. Maybe if I didn't give her the reaction she wanted, she'd move on. But ignoring Karen is like ignoring a mosquito buzzing near your ear. It only gets louder. 2 nights later, I came home from work and noticed bright orange cones blocking my driveway. A handwritten sign taped to one read, "Temporary no parking zone. HOA maintenance in progress." I looked around. There were no workers. No construction trucks. Just Karen standing across the street, pretending to trim her bushes while staring right at me. I walked over, arms crossed. "Karen, what is this?" She didn't even look up. "We're repaving soon. Show business. You'll have to park on the street." I took a deep breath. "Karen, you don't have authority over my property. You're trespassing. Again." She dropped her scissors dramatically. "Trespassing? Oh, please. I'm protecting property values. You should be thanking me." I took a picture of the cones and sign with my phone. "Perfect. I'll send this to the city and let them decide if you're allowed to repave my driveway." That wiped the smirk off her face. "You wouldn't dare!" she snapped. "Oh, I would." She stormed off, muttering something about ungrateful neighbors. Later that evening, I heard hammering outside. I rushed out, and there she was again, this time nailing a notice of violation onto the wooden post by my mailbox. "You're in violation of neighborhood aesthetics," she said proudly, stepping back to admire her work. I pulled the sign right off. "Karen, keep this up and I'm filing a harassment complaint." She gave me a sly grin. "Go ahead. The HOA always backs me up." That's when I decided enough was enough. If she wanted a war, I'd give her one, but not the kind she expected. I had a plan forming, and this time I wasn't playing nice. By the next morning, I was done letting Karen push me around. She wanted a fight. She was about to get one, legally and publicly. I started by calling the actual HOA office, not Karen's imaginary version. After explaining everything, the fake letters, the cones, the forged violation notices, the real HOA manager, a man named Derek, was silent for a moment before saying, "Sir, Karen Thompson isn't even authorized to issue warnings. She's just on the landscaping committee." That was all I needed to hear. So I set my plan in motion. I printed copies of every fake notice she'd left, along with photos of her blocking my driveway and hammering the sign into my property. Then I installed a small security camera facing the driveway. Discreet, but clear enough to catch her in action. And just as expected, she came back. That Friday evening, I heard the familiar sound of her sandals slapping the pavement. She was carrying a clipboard and a new violation sign. This time she was whispering into her phone. "Yeah, make sure the tow truck comes right at 7. I'll have him blocked in." I couldn't believe it. She was still trying to tow my car again. I hit record on my phone and stepped outside calmly. "Evening, Karen. Planning another fake HOA operation?" Her eyes went wide for a split second. Then she tried to act composed. "You're obstructing official HOA enforcement, sir." I held up my phone. "Smile for the camera. The real HOA already knows everything." Her expression faltered, but before she could respond, a white SUV pulled up. Derek, the HOA manager, along with a uniformed security officer. "Ms. Thompson," he said sternly, stepping out, "we received several complaints about you impersonating an HOA official." Karen froze like a deer in headlights. "What? No, I was just keeping order." He held up a folder. "We have photos, reports, and a signed statement from multiple neighbors. You're being removed from all HOA duties effective immediately. And the homeowner you've been harassing," he gestured toward me, "has filed a trespassing report with the police." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her face turned red as she spun around and stomped back toward her house, muttering, "You're all ungrateful." As she disappeared inside, Derek turned to me with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry for the trouble. Trust me, she won't be bothering anyone again. That night, I finally parked my car in peace. The next morning, Karen's for sale sign appeared on her lawn. Guess she couldn't handle living in a neighborhood where the rules actually applied.